podcast. We are back after about a 2-week hiatus. We were here last week, called in Hayden the reliever to help us out as we to help out and get a show going after we missed 2 weeks ago. And you know what? It is the final quarter. They're driving down the field. They're down a field goal, and it is intercepted by Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States of America. We're not going to talk a whole lot of politics, but you know the analogy I took that from was I think it was his speech at the DNC, and it really wasn't that relevant in the sense that there was never a sense last night that the Democrats were within a field goal and driving down the field with a chance to win. It never was that way. You know, Grant, the way I would analogize last night's election is the 2023 wild card round playoff matchup between the Cowboys and Packers, and it did not go. Last night's went a little bit more favorable. I think we can say, but is that fair?
If you want to compare it to playoff games last year, I'd actually go, Dylan. I'd go Kansas City and Miami. One team, the team in red, was in charge all night, and you knew they were going to win. It took a while to get there, but when you look back at it, it wasn't that close.
Yeah, that's actually probably even a better analogy. So,
you know, because Green Bay just blitzed them. Like if to compare last night's election to that game, we would have had it known at 10:30, not 1:30 or 2:00 whenever some people officially found out.
Correct. Which I'm sure you stayed up all night for. Is that correct?
Well, actually, you want to know how much of election coverage I actually watched on TV last night, Dylan?
I'm listening.
Zero.
Wow. But you did vote. Grant did vote. He did his civic duty.
Yes, can confirm. Well, I no longer have the sticker, but I may have a picture on my phone, or I believe I did send you a Snapchat. So I did vote.
You did send us a Snapchat, which if you follow me on Twitter, I did tweet out that if you do not post on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, any of those, if you don't post your I voted sticker, your vote actually doesn't count.
Well, shit, my vote doesn't count then because I did not post mine on social media.
Well, you posted it on Snapchat, so you're in the clear. Your vote.
Okay. All right. So life is good.
Life is good. Correct. Was there a long line for when you voted?
Not at all. I was in and out in 5 minutes.
That was the nice thing here is it was early voting. I was able to do early voting. I voted the first day you could early vote. Walked in, walked out, and I was done. It was just sit there and wait. You have seen my TV setup I have at home. I can be sometimes a bit of a multitasker if it's sports related. When it gets into my actual day job, my bosses can attest to this. Not so much of a multitasker. I am. You got to tell me one thing, let me do it, and then I can go on to the next task. I can't do multiple things at once because my brain just is way too all over the place. Where it's like, oh, and then I got to go back and do that, and then I forgot that. I got to go do that. But I had on one TV, I had Charlie Kirk on one TV, I had Fox News on the other, and on the big one, I was playing college football 25. I was taking the Gamecocks to the SEC championship. We unfortunately fell short after we beat Georgia 59-17 in the regular season. They beat us 31-28 in the SEC championship game. Still good enough to make the playoff here. We're the 5 seed. We got Charlotte coming up. But the Gamecocks are rolling. And kind of like what they did on Saturday night, but that before we talk some college football, I suppose we better do our due diligence. You know, we talk all sports here. The Los Angeles Dodgers are World Series champions. They beat the dreadful New York Yankees. So anytime the Yankees lose, America wins. And you know, it was game 5 happened and we were recording it, and it was like Yankees jump out to that 5-0 lead, and it was, well, we're gonna be back in LA Friday and Saturday for game 6 and 7, and then all of a sudden by the time we were done recording it was already tied up. I think you got to give the credit. I think that series ended in game 1 when Freddie Freeman hit that walk-off grand slam. It felt like it just took the air out of the Yankees after they bring in Nestor Cortez, who hasn't pitched in over a month, and they put him into that situation and expected it to go well. I feel like Boone kind of lost the clubhouse after that. And then the Dodgers pitching was tremendous. The one time that the Yankees were able to get the win, it was in a bullpen game where it was basically, we're just going to throw our bottom end guys that are barely on the 40-man roster and see how it goes. And to the Dodgers' credit, they hung in there and made it a game until in the end the Yankees were able to kind of use that power and then pull ahead. But then it was just a series of mistakes by the Yankees where they don't cover first base. They have 3 errors in an inning. Aaron Judge drops a routine fly ball, which it still baffles me how he dropped that. And I think you got to give a lot of credit to the Dodgers because, you know, that was the big thing forever, you know, was, yeah, they won the Mickey Mouse World Series when it was in Dallas. They only played 60 games. And then they had short exits. They lost in the NLCS in 21. First round exit in 22. First round exit in 23. Swept in 23. And Dave Roberts talked about how at the beginning of the year, he really challenged that team to get some mental toughness to them. And I think those shortcomings that they had in 21 to 23, it really propelled them. And even when they were down 5-0, they made that comeback, because in previous years, if if the Dodgers are down 5-0, they're not coming back, throwing the towel. You know, they got some grit, they got some toughness to them. You don't think about that with an LA team. You would think about that with the Yankees, especially us as our childhood growing up, is they've had so many experiences that nothing was going to phase them. And the Dodgers were able to overcome that. They didn't panic. They didn't freak out. It was like, okay, we're not going to get it back in one swing. It was just take what they give you, move base runners over. They were the more sound team in the field. They pitched better. They were more patient at the plate, and they just ended up leaning on the Yankees, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You come back to all sports, and when you get to these championship moments, how the stuff you do in the first 2 weeks of training camp or spring training truly separate winners from losers. Like the Yankees were a horrible fielding team this year, no Gold Glove winners, and they could not run the base paths. You know, and how many times did that come back to bite them in this series? And ultimately, the Dodgers knew that. The Dodgers were the better team.
Was it game
more fun?
3?
Fundamentally.
Was that game 3 where they had a chance to tie it, and Giancarlo Stanton looked like he had concrete on his cleats?
It was either 3 or 2.
He was running so slow.
Yeah, it was 3. Yeah, I think it was 3.
Yeah, it was the first game in New York.
Yes. And like I said, it came back to rear its ugly head, and that's why the Yankees have to go back to the drawing board this offseason and realize, you know what, we can want to pay all these players we can and have a star-studded roster, but if we're not fundamentally sound, we're never going to win a World Series title with this core.
And I think that gets lost in the discussion with the Dodgers, where it was, oh, they've got this high payroll, they just go out and get, you know, they're the new Yankees. But you look at their payroll, it's still up there. I mean, you still have to spend money to get good, talented players. But a lot of those guys are just good, solid players and you look at like the core of that team is guys that have been there forever. Will Smith, Chris Taylor, Max Muncy. You know, they still have strong veteran leadership on that team to where they understand what the standard of Dodger baseball is. And, you get guys like Shohei, who just had surgery on a torn labrum and was playing through it. And they're only going to get better too, because you can't tell me they're going to be that beat up and that unhealthy going into next year. I think you could, and we haven't seen it in a long time, but there's definitely no reason to not believe that the Dodgers could go on a run here like what the Yankees did in the 90s.
Yeah, and went 4 in 6 years or something like that.
Yep. But that was that's our baseball talk here. Let's go down to college football, our team of the week here, week 10. A very exciting week of college football here. We had a 3-4 matchup. South Carolina upset Texas A&M. But Grant, your week 10 team of the week here, who do you got?
Dylan, I was going to start out and go with South Carolina, but you mentioned them a few times, and we're going to give the people something different. How about the Houston Cougars getting a big?
Hey, I had this one on my list, and I had it all set up because I figured I'm going to give you the floor. There's no way you're not going to take this team, but go off, go, keep going. I won't steal your thunder.
No, I was just going to say, coming into the game, Houston was 4-4. I believe Kansas State were they 7-1?
Yes.
17th ranked team in the country. Houston with a new coaching staff this year, still trying to get comfortable in this new Big 12. And was it year 2 in the Big 12 for them?
Yes.
Needing
year
a
2, year 1 of the Willie Fritz era.
Yes. Needing a new, like a signature win for your program. And to get that at home on Saturday against a good Kansas State team who was playing really good of late. And, to kind of tell these players, hey, everything we taught you this offseason that we've been trying to say, if you follow it, good things like this will come. And Houston got who could be a program-defining win. We'll see in this new era, but that's why I got to go with the Houston Cougars as my college team of the week.
Yep, and when we were doing our Big 12 preview, I thought about putting them as a surprise team for the Big 12 this year, but I thought it was early. So I had a qualifier is that Willie Fritz was going to upset a team and ruin a team's season, kind of like what the Lions were going to do in 22. And this was the win. And, Houston, a lovely city, a beautiful city that doesn't get the credit it deserves until you've actually been there.
Never been there.
So.
And I love to talk shit about the city of Houston.
You do. And that was going to be how I set that up is we're going to go down to a place that doesn't get the credit it deserves as a lovely city. And until you've been there, you truly don't appreciate how beautiful that city is. Houston Cougars, which I Grant's out here throwing sliders and just bending my knees here. I'm going to have to go with the Ohio State Buckeyes as my week 10 team of the week. Yeah, well, you know what? I wasn't surprised when we did our show last week, Hayden and I said that Ohio State was going to win. It's been the same exact game for the last 5 years. Is both teams they are the exact same team. The difference is that Ohio State is better coached, and they have better athletes at every position across the board. And that's the difference I see. Ohio State has that winning pedigree that they know how to win. They aren't going to be phased. Will Howard, they get down 10-0, throws an ugly pick six, where I was watching it. I was like, oh, that's going to be picked off. And it was. Mm-hmm. And they just respond. They go right back down the field, go score. They go score back to back. It was a great play calling game by Chip Kelly. And then the defense, they kept Penn State out of the end zone. Penn State fires their offensive coordinator after the Michigan game last year. They go out and they get Andy Kotelnicki, which to this point, and I still think it was the best coordinator hire of the offseason. I think he is a tremendous play caller, but it was exactly the same story as what it was last year. Is they are not giving their best playmakers the ball. Nick Singleton and Tyler Warren on that final drive within or in the red zone, they did not touch the ball one time. Like, what are we doing here? How do you not? And then your best play is you line up your guard as a wide receiver, and they're saying is like, well, he's got the most power when he's running. So you're going to bring in a backup who is maybe good, but he's not your starter. Mm-hmm. Why don't you run power? You put Tyler Warren in the backfield. You let him run power and run through. Just follow him if he's got that much force running through. But it was a tough atmosphere, 3 versus 4. Ryan Day got a top 10 win. James Franklin still only has the 1 win. And I don't want to go back to the old steak, which is probably people are thinking it. I'm going to say it. This Penn State team, it's Ohio State beat Penn State, but this is what Penn State does. They've been losing against top 10 ranked teams since Joe Paterno was still there. And the athletes, the coaching is far and above still much better than what Penn State throws out there. Mm-hmm. And is this where we say, well, it's a top 5 win, but it's Penn State? I don't want to, because of the way. The other thing too is the way that final drive, because after Ohio State got that goal line stand, their second one back-to-back weeks, they go and they melt the clock, and Keyshawn Junkins just delivered an absolute block to that linebacker that freed up where Howard was able to get the first down and end it.
Yeah, like you said, Dylan, to your point, this is who Penn State is. They're always going to win 9 to 10 games a year. But you know what? When they need to beat the best teams that they're going to play against, they can't do it. They just don't have that ability. For whatever it's worth.
No. It's a mental hurdle at this point. I mean, this was the same, and being a Michigan fan, this is where Michigan had been. And now Penn State, they're going to win out. They're going to be 11-1. They're going to be hosting a playoff game. They're going to be fine, I think. But I understand where Penn State's fans' frustrations are coming from. Because you've been there, you've been so close so many times, and a blocked field goal away from not having James Franklin not having that win.
Yes. In being 0-10 in his career against Ohio State?
1-10.
1-10, okay.
Because he had the blocked one in 16.
Yes.
So let's go to the NFL week 9 team of the week here, and we'll just go back to me here, and I got to go with the Fox game of the week. It's the Detroit Lions going to Green Bay in an ugly, nasty weather game environment. And all this talk of, the Lions playing the Dome, they're not going to be able to handle it. And this is a team that it doesn't matter. Rain, blood, shit, or mud, the Lions are going to thrive in it. The Packers were the ones that struggled. This is a finesse team. Michael Lombardi has talked about it, how he wants to build a team that plays indoors, that can go up into the cold and go in there. It doesn't matter what the situation is build a team stylistically that can go and dominate no matter what. The running game of the line, there's just so many weapons. They've got a good slot receiver. And Jamison Williams coming back where he's going to be able to stretch the field. You got Sam Laporta, who's got across the middle. You got Jamison Williams or Amon-Ra in the slot. That's a kind of more your possession guy. And then in the running game, best offensive line in football. And then they use David Montgomery to really soften and tire out the defense. They sub in Gibbs, and he's lightning, and he's gashing them left and right and breaking off big runs. If they do not make it to the NFC Championship game or at least the Super Bowl, it is the thing that worries me with the Lions is I love Dan Campbell as a coach, but the decision making, like I understand that their aggressive style early on where he's trying to establish the culture, but the culture's established there, and you're not gonna be going away as if you don't run a fake punt or you don't go for it on a certain situation here. Your job is to win the game, and I think if they are able to check that box off and clear that department up, the Lions are going to walk to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and right now nobody in the NFC can play with them. But yeah, my my team of the week, Dylan. I'm going to go with the team who's all of a sudden is getting healthy, and it looks like they might mess around, and they still have an opportunity to win the division, like I said they were to start the year. That's the Los Angeles Rams. And especially after Puka Nacua came back against the Vikings and had that huge first game, but then to get in a fight in the first quarter of this game and get ejected.
Kind of a weak ejection, if you ask me. I might be biased because he's on two of my fantasy teams, but I kind of a weak. It was just kind of some hand shoving. I thought I didn't think it was.
I agree.
But you're kind of in weak, soft Seattle, so it makes when in Rome, right?
Who knows? It may have been a bad officiating crew who likes to call people on stuff early, like Scott Novak's crew. But besides the point, then to come back and still without your number one or number two receiver, to go out and play in a tough place like Seattle against that Mike McDonald defense, and then go into overtime and be mentally tough to go out and get the win. Like, this Rams team is thriving, and they're getting better and better each week. They just need to become healthy. And if they do, watch out, because they have the best quarterback in the NFC West. I don't care what anyone says. They have the best quarterback and they have the best coach. You have that, and you pair that with that young, aggressive defense that they're playing with. Jared Verse might be the NFL Rookie of the Year right now. Like, he is just a terror on the outside.
Every time you see the Rams or them on red zone and they're on defense, Jared Verse pops off your screen.
Yes. Like, there's one team in the NFC North who should have taken Jared Verse, like I said they should, in the mock draft, and that would have been the Chicago Bears. But that's besides the point. This Los Angeles team, they look like they're getting healthy. Stafford, like I said, is the best quarterback in the division. Who knows? Maybe those trade rumors or those trade talks were something the Rams did on purpose to get Stafford fired up and ready to play, because ever since then, he's looked phenomenal.
And I think there were some. I think the discussions were serious in that realm, but I think it was partial, kind of to see what they would get and see who would bite on it, because I think I do. If the Vikings were able to come back and win that game, I think that there would have been some serious discussions of what are they going to do, because they're still in cap hell. The bill is going to come due eventually, and to rebuild probably a year late, depending on what the plan is at quarterback for them. But that's why you don't question one of the top quarterback head coach duos in all of football in McVay and Stafford. They just know how to win, and Stafford still got it. I mean, that touchdown that he threw in overtime to end it was a perfect. You couldn't throw that place it any better.
You couldn't drop it in any better from a helicopter.
Yeah. But disappointing team of the week is, I had the Seahawks on this list, but since I'm going first, I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this stems simply for the reason of they score with 28 seconds left in the game. They are beat up. They're without their top two receivers. The O-line is beat up. And they decide not to go for two and end it. And you could tell Baker's reaction on the coin toss that when they didn't win it, you could see he was like, well, I'm not touching the ball. The
Yeah.
Chiefs are just going to go down right down and score. And I think the other part of it too is because they scored with 28 seconds left. The defense still had to go out, and they'd been on the field for a lot of that game, that second half.
Yeah.
They were tired, and it's a Todd Bowles. You got to know the state of your team and look and see that our guys are tired. We got to be. Let's just go for two, try and end this. If they're able to kick a field goal, the defense they've been on the field for a long time, but they did a good job of keeping them out of the end zone and kind of keeping them on the brink of field goal range. And realistically, if Antoine Winfield had decided to catch the ball, they're probably winning that game the way he was trying to throw it.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bucks right now, I would say Todd Bowles is my disappointing coach of the week.
No, that's fair. And I'm with you. When they scored that touchdown at the end of regulation, I was like, they're going for two. They're going for the jugular. There's no way they're going to want to go into overtime on the road, short week coming up where you got to play the Niners and have to play another possibly 10 minutes of football. So I'm with you, Dylan. They should have done that, and it's a mistake that they didn't, if you ask me.
Well, then we'll see. And their schedule doesn't get any easier either.
No.
Because they got the Niners, who are also getting closer and closer to healthy.
Yeah, so my disappointing team of the week here is a team who had one of the best defenses, at least on paper, coming into this game this weekend, and that was the Denver Broncos. Like I said, I think they were a top 3 defense coming into it, and this was their time to be put on the map and let everybody know, hey, you know what? Here in Denver, we got a damn good defense, and nobody wants to come and mess with us. And they went into Baltimore and they got messed with. I saw a stat. Baltimore averaged 7.7, was it 7.7 yards a play, or 7.3 yards a play. They had 127 yards on the ground, and Baltimore puts up 41 points. It just shows, I think, how far away Denver actually is from being able to compete with the big dogs in the AFC. And when you need a moment like this, Vance Joseph, your defense has been under fire for a while now, where you can prove it. You go into Baltimore and you shut those boys down, and they couldn't do it. It shows the Broncos still have a long way to go before they want to be a team that people actually take seriously.
Yeah, well, they got to get another big test coming up on Sunday too. Mm-hmm. But it was they've kind of been they've kind of taken advantage of the weak schedule that they have, mm-hmm. and beaten up on some of the bottom tier teams of the NFL.
Yeah, those bottom feeders.
And both the times that they have played good teams is they've crapped in their helmet, as a former Bronco Mark Schlereth likes to say. They've crapped in their helmet and haven't played well. But let's stay in the NFL here. And Grant, who do you got? What do you got for your NFL week 10? There's a week 10 or week 11?
I think is it week 9? No, week 10.
Week 10 game of the week.
Week 10 game of the week. So we're going to go the early window on Sunday and give me the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Washington Commanders.
Ooh. Fire me up.
The Commanders
PFT
right now.
Commenter versus Jersey Jerry. I'm here for it.
The Commanders right now, they're the team of the year. They're the team in the story of the year right now. Last year, what did they win? 3 games all of last year? Well, they won 7 now. Cliff Kingsbury looks like he's found the fountain of youth. Dan Quinn looks like he should be the coach of the year right now. Jaden Daniels is telling everyone, hey, I should have been the number 1 pick in the draft for a reason. In these 23 or however many free agent
But he's very thankful that he went to Washington instead of Chicago.
Yes. The 23 offseason free agent signings they've had, all these guys are coming in to make big plays. And they have been making big plays this year. And finally, Terry McLaurin finally looks excited to be playing in the NFL. But then also, you go out and you get Marshawn Lattimore this week. Washington is all in. They're putting their chips on the table, and there's just a breath of fresh air in that organization now that Daniel Snyder is gone. But I want to see it. I want to see them do it this week with this Cliff Kingsbury offense against a legit defense in the Steelers. And the weakness on Washington's team is their right tackle. You know, being Andrew Wiley, the former Chief. Well, guess what? It could be a long day at the ballpark for him because number 90 in black, or number 90 in white, and T.J. Watt is coming all day, and it's an all-day affair blocking that man, and he can easily take games over.
Where's he coming?
Everywhere. Anywhere and everywhere.
Everywhere?
Everywhere. If you're within the 6-foot radius of TJ, put a poncho on because it's going to get wet.
Put a poncho on? And Grant, I think Dan Quinn, because you look at a lot of those, like the role players, they followed Dan Quinn from Dallas to Washington. It shows the type of coach he is that guys want to play for.
Yes.
And a lot of them that were making plays for the Cowboys last year are making plays for Washington this year. And, on the other end, the Steelers, Mike Tomlin is putting to bed us saying that they're going to take last place in the AFC North. We should not doubt Mike Tomlin. It's a division that is going to be a fun to follow down the stretch here. Not an easy decision for him either.
And also, Dylan, HBO or Max.
Oh, that's right.
Season is the whole AFC North.
That is right. That's going to be starting here soon, I believe, isn't it?
Oh, I think I saw the 1st of December.
Okay. So we got about a month or so.
The regular season goes into the second week of January, so you can get 6 episodes in before anyone possibly makes the playoffs. And you got to think with Baltimore and Pittsburgh and possibly Cincinnati, we could be having Hard Knocks into late January.
I'm here for it.
And I'm here for it.
Grant, it kind of sounds like you're sussy for Russy.
I wouldn't say I'm sussy for Russy, but there's something to like about the Steelers team. And you know what? It looks like he's found the fountain of youth. I think he needed to be back with an adult. Nathaniel Hackett is not an adult. Sean Payton clearly did not like Russell Wilson. Mike Tomlin sat back and he realized, hey, Russell Wilson.
Sean Payton wasn't sussy for Russy.
Sean Payton was not sussy for Russy. And Mike Tomlin was like, you know what? I'm a Hall of Fame head coach. You're a Hall of Fame wide receiver or quarterback, excuse me. Let's work together. Let's build a culture. Let's have a good running game with Najee Harris. And we're going to attack the ball down the field like Russell Wilson likes to do. And these 2 games that he's played, they've looked great. He's coming off a bye. We'll see if he can be healthy or not. It's hard not to like what Pittsburgh is doing right now. And if they can go on the road and beat the Commanders and get to 7-2, that's a hell of a win.
And you know what? I wish, I don't know if you've gotten to read the blog post or Reddit post it was of where the Sussy for Russy came from. And I would read it to you, but I cannot find it right now. And since we're live recording, I will. I'll send it to you later if I can find it.
Yes.
But my game of the week is going to be also. Actually, no, it won't be. I'm changing. I'm calling an audible here. I'm going to go with the Texans-Lions, a Sunday night game. Mm-hmm. Now, the Lions, they went out and they just made a trade for Zadarius Smith to try and make up for the loss of Aiden Hutchinson. The defense still is playing at an all-time level here. It would have been easy. A lot of people called for Aaron Glenn's head, and Dan Campbell stuck with him, and he's done a tremendous job, keeping the game he called against the Packers last week, just done a good job of keeping guys guessing, been able to get pressure. Secondary is still kind of inconsistent, but their linebackers are really, really good. And the Texans have been a little bit of a disappointing, underperforming team this year. Their offensive line is extremely beat up. CJ Stroud, I don't want to say he's regressed, but he hasn't played as well as what he's been, and I think part of that is due to how many injuries they have had. Nico Collins is beat up. Stephon Diggs is out for the year, relying on Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz.
Joe Mixon missing time.
Yep. It hasn't been that perfect cohesion that you've seen, coming off a loss to the Jets. This is a game we're going to see what if they come out and fight, because the Lions, and defensively, interesting to see what DeMeco Ryans is going to try to do to get Jared Goff off his game, who's had like 4 incompletions the last 5 weeks.
And it's in Houston, Dylan is one of the best rush defenses in the NFL. Going against one of the best running game in the NFL. Something has to give. So to your point, if Houston can slow down this Detroit running game, what's it going to look like for Jared Goff and Ben Johnson in the passing game when the play action's not working because Texans are shutting the run down? Possibly.
Yeah. We'll see. And I wonder if you're going to see kind of the lines from week 2 where they're going to come out throwing the ball all over the place to try and open up some holes for the run game. That chess match, that coordinator matchup is going to be fun to watch between Ben Johnson and DeMeco Ryans. Kind of a even if we're picking, I think it's kind of a wash between both of those two because they're both really good. Yeah. But we're going to go back down to the college ranks here. And our week 11 game of the week here. We've got 2 really good ones here, so it's going to be pretty easy. We're going to go down to the SEC country here. And mine is anytime these two play, if this game is not discussed on the show, we probably shouldn't be having a show anymore. I'm going to go with LSU Alabama. A loser out game. Alabama is in currently at the moment. They are the 11th seed. I don't know what LSU is at, but they're still in the hunt here, and especially if they're able to get a win over Alabama this week, they will they will be back in the discussion here. QB play is going to be the difference. Both these quarterbacks have had some real high of highs, and they've also had some real low of lows, where any turnover could really be the difference. The other thing is the defense. Neither defense has been very good. I expect the over in this game. I think it's going to be a lot of points, a lot of explosive plays, a lot of, you're going to see a lot of 3-play, 70-yard drives where a guy breaks one type in this game just because of the nature of these two offenses here. But something that, probably 10 years ago, if you had that on your bingo card for LSU Alabama, you did not expect offensive shootouts here. It was a 12-9, some ugly games. Nominees, which I think we might end up having to do sometime late, maybe next year. This is a game is the honorary 2014 Michigan Northwestern game. Game of the week. Which, if you don't know what that game is, Grant, you and I, we texted through that game, and being the good friend that you are, you helped me through it. But it was ugly. I think there were probably 10 turnovers combined. Neither team wanted to win, nor did they deserve to win. Michigan came out on top, and that's the reason why we can have this as an honorary game. I was listening to Hayden's show. They're doing a Jefferson Pilot game of the week. If you remember those games that were on, Grant, it was just some games that just weird things happened. Mississippi State is a team that probably deserves a lifetime contract on those games. But that would be a fun conversation. Our 2014 look away Michigan Northwestern game of the week.
Game of the week. No, that's fair.
But
so for me, I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff here, and I'm going to go just for the sheer sake of this name and what it means for the people of Utah. BYU versus Utah.
Ooh, that game's this week, huh?
It's this weekend.
That game should be the last game of the season.
Yeah, it's the Holy War. These two schools do not like each other. A lot of weird stuff going on in the state of Utah, but this football rivalry runs deep. And Utah in the year, I believe they're 4-4. BYU is undefeated.
Utah
This is
been
what
very underwhelming this year.
Utah had been very underwhelming, and surprise, surprise, Cam Rising cannot stay healthy.
He'll be back for
But
his eighth year.
his 8th year next year, in his 9th
A
year
lot of
after
people
that
go to
somehow.
school for 8 years.
Yeah, they turn out to be doctors, but that's okay. But just BYU, if they win this game, they can kind of put a stranglehold on the regular season aspect of the Big 12 title and essentially guarantee them a spot in the Big 12 championship game. And in return, a spot in the college football playoff, and you get a bye before you have to play your first playoff game. And then can Utah salvage their season? Like after they beat Oklahoma State, I'm thinking it's on. Utah's Utah. They're going to easily win the Big 12. But injuries and just overwhelming play and inconsistency on offense, they're sitting here at 4-4. But you know what? A win versus your most hated rival to maybe jumpstart the end of your year and possibly get to 8-4. What else could you ask for? And also, just like I said, the name of this game being the Holy War and how these two teams don't like each other, it just fits perfectly.
BYU. That is what this game comes down to. BYU. But interesting game. I did not expect that one, but I texted you guys on Saturday, and I'm all aboard this, and I feel like since I said it in the group chat, I feel obligated to talk about it. I texted you guys, Michigan's going to beat Indiana this week. I'm still all in on it. Michigan, the last couple of weeks, last week they played Oregon, they lost, but there were reasons for optimism. I felt like they played really well. It feels like Davis Warren has hit his stride. He hasn't turned the ball over in 2 games. They've taken care of the football. It wasn't going to matter unless Dylan Gabriel turned the ball over 3 different times. Michigan was just not going to win that game. They just aren't. They don't have the horses that they had this year. And Indiana, yes, they are having a tremendous season. Should be in the playoff as long as they take care of business. But Michigan could play spoiler on this one. I think Indiana, their schedule has been very weak. They have not played any really good teams. Granted, albeit they have dominated it. But at Michigan, there are still reasons to believe that this is a team that won the national championship from last year. There are still a lot of pieces on that championship team that were big contributors. How is Indiana going to match up against the athletes of Michigan? Because at the end of the day, Michigan still has really good athletes. Are they going to be able to go and put it together? We're going to find out. Michigan 14-point underdogs. I do believe Michigan is going to find a way to win. I think if they're able to take care of the football, it seems like they've got a good balance of Orji and Warren playing quarterback here. They've gotten some nice packages for Orji. Khalil Mullings has had his moments. Donovan Edwards has really come on the last couple of weeks. He looks a lot more confident running the ball. I'd still like to see them utilize him more in the passing game. But Colston Loveland has been playing himself into a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Am I crazy, or am I just too stupid and blinded by my fandom to think Michigan's going to go in and beat Indiana this weekend?
I'd say you're blinded a little bit, Dylan, but you bring up some compelling arguments. And to your point, how does Indiana match with the size and the physicality that is Michigan? Because they haven't played anyone like that this year. And who knows, maybe they're looking ahead next week to an undefeated matchup against Ohio State. So,
and I just get there's something off about Curt Cignetti. He's a good coach, but we dealt with him at NDSU, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, because there's finally some steam that they might be moving to the FBS. But every time that guy loses, he says, "I win, Google me." Never won a national title. NDSU has been in his way. I have also seen him up 3 scores on the road against Sam Houston State in the FCS semifinals, only to blow that. And then in the press conference, go and say, well, if we played this game at home, we would have won. Well, you weren't at home when you were up 3 scores in the first half. What changed?
Yeah.
And how often have we seen it? We haven't seen it to this level, but we've seen this at Indiana before where new coach comes in, excites the fan base, they have a good couple of years, and then they fall back to Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what that program is. Who knows? Maybe Signetti, he's here 1 year and he's gone because who knows what jobs are going to be opening up. But the move over to the big news that Brett McMurphy dropped is that there is waning. Northern Illinois has waning interest in joining the Mountain West as a football-only member. Rumor is that their next target, according to Brett McMurphy, is going to be NDSU as a football-only member. Now, this is a scenario that we have been hoping and waiting for. NDSU has been wanting to make the jump for FBS. This is probably as good of a situation as NDSU wanted because there's a lot of talk that potentially if Northern Illinois were to move and there would be openings in the MAC and that might be NDSU's only option. And at this point, you got to take it and just get there and figure it out from there. There's going to be a lot more realignment, moving and shuffling going on here in the next couple of years because I don't think the current state of the way things are set up, especially with teams traveling all over across the country, I don't think it's it'll work for football, but I don't think it's going to work for other sports. And hopefully we're able to kind of see kind of some moves back to, what we saw about college football, because now it feels like it's a little bit more pro style, but NDSU would be the 9th team, the only team on the central time zone. Everything else is Mountain or Pacific or Hawaii. And, it'd be good if you're an NDSU fan, buckle up, make sure you you have caffeine ready to go, because there's going to be some late kickoffs. You might see some 9-10 o'clock kickoff games here if this is to happen. It's still a very early process here, but NDSU gets this, you have to go. And that would put the Mountain West at 9 right now. And that would put them at 9 teams, so it would still be open, and that's really the only team that you've seen them invite or that's been rumored to jump to the FBS. I mean, it's South Dakota State's been brought up, the Montana States have been brought up, but Montana and Montana State have said that they are not going up unless the other one goes up. NDSU doesn't need to do that. They aren't beholden to any other school. They made the jump with SDSU to Division I, but they don't need to do that anymore. It would be cool at some point, maybe to keep that marker, because, you go into the Mountain West. One of the great things of college football are the rivalries, are the pageantry, are the tradition. That would be cool, that where you would still be able to kind of have your rival. Where you go to the Mountain West, you really don't have that. You'd have to look way back into the 60s to see when NDSU played some of these schools. So I know they played San Diego State way back in the 60s when Don Coryell was the head coach. And do you know who his offensive coordinator was when they played?
Oh God, I have no idea.
He's a Hall of Fame NFL coach.
I still don't know.
No. John Madden.
No shit.
Uh-huh. That's a Fun Fact Friday. Released on a Thursday, recorded live on Wednesday here for you.
Wednesday. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Haven't done that in quite a while, but hey, we're back, baby.
We're back, baby.
So
back like we never left.
It's going to be a situation worth monitoring, and whenever that news breaks, or if anything does happen there, we'll be breaking it down whenever we record. But before we wrap up the show, we're going to go to Curveball of the Week here, and it's been a while here. It's kind of been all over the place, but the last time I had Curveball of the Week here, it's kind of going to be a question off of what I had. The last time I had Curveball of the Week was, what was a punishment that when you screwed up, you knew you were doing, when you screwed up big time, that was your punishment and you knew you were in trouble? Grant, what was the dumbest thing you were ever punished for as a kid? Punished, ground, or whatever you want to call it.
Honestly, one time I had a friend or multiple friends coming over to stay. They're staying the night at the house. And for some reason, we had the genius idea, Dylan, to flour my sister Miranda.
Flour?
And flour, if you're wondering what that is, it's when someone is asleep and you take baking flour, you throw it in your hand, and you throw it on their face.
Oh.
Yeah, she woke up, flour all up in her face, all up in her bed, and she screams. My parents scream at me. They come around, and it was not good for Grant.
It's not good for Grant. What was the punishment?
I don't remember what the punishment was. I just remember that was probably one of the most.
How old were you when you did this?
How old would I have been? I would have been probably 13 at the time, 14. So Miranda would have been 9 or 10.
Oh, jeez.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
Maybe.
What a terrible brother.
Maybe not the best idea, but just had an idea of let's throw a bunch of baking flour in her face when she's sleeping.
Did you have to clean it up?
I don't remember. Like I said, I just remember my parents being so mad that it all just kind of went black after that.
It just kind of went black after that. Oh. So the dumbest thing I ever got punished for was I want to say I was like 16 or 17 years old, and we had cable, so it was, I had to follow the game. I found a Cowboys radio stream on the internet, so I was listening to that, so I could kind of following on my phone, and the Cowboys were playing the Cardinals, and the Cowboys were driving. They were in field goal range, and they were about to kick the game-winning kick. I think they were tied, and they kick it, and kick is good. They win, and I'm like happy. Yes, we won. Let's go. And then they're like, wait, no, there was a timeout. Jason Garrett has called a timeout. And I was like, why would you ice your own kicker? And Dan Bailey kicks it again, misses it. And after I hear that, I was like, what the heck? And my dad's like, what? Or he comes down, he's like, Cowboys win? I was like, no, their stupid ginger coach decided to ice his own kicker, and they missed the kick. And my mom, she comes down. You do not talk about Cody Heiser that way. You do not call him a stupid redhead. I was like, turn that TV off now. Go do your homework. You're not watching TV the rest of the night. And I'm like, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I wasn't talking about Cody. I was talking about Jason Garrett. He's not going to hear me. He doesn't know. And he was stupid. He was a stupid redhead because he iced his own kicker and the Cowboys lost.
It probably cost him a spot in the playoffs, too.
It did, because they went 8-8 that year. Week 17, Tony Romo on the line throws an interception. They win that game. It's over. They win the division. They're in the playoffs. They're going to lose in the first round, but hey, they won the division.
They're in the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs. So that was probably the dumbest thing that I've ever gotten punished for, was allegedly calling my friend a stupid redhead, ginger. But I wasn't even calling. I mean, because I've never called him that before or after, but yeah, the one time I actually didn't call him that, I still get in trouble for it,
which is hilarious.
It is now, but if my mom sees this, she's not going to be happy about this story. But it's too good not to share.
It's too good not to share.
It is. But that wraps up this week's episode. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. hit that follow, hit that like, subscribe, leave a comment here. That helps push up the algorithm towards the top here, help us get more views here on the show. And if we get to 1,000 views on TikTok, we will be able to go live on TikTok and watch stream games together, and you can see our live reactions if we ever decide to do that. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back next week, and until then, we'll talk to you next time. All right. And